What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Off the Deep End Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Eddie. Before we get into this, I want to put out a general disclaimer. We're going to be talking about some heavy subjects, but I promise you, if you can make it through this episode, it'll be worth it. I promise you. Suicide is never the easiest thing to talk about, and so there will be triggers. So this is a general trigger warning for all this and all other episodes. I will be making sure to put a trigger warning in as well. So thank you so much for listening. And without further ado, let's get straight into my buddy and all the great work he's doing. Before we continue, I want to just let you know that here at Off the Deep End Podcast, we do talk about some things that can be extremely triggering for some of the listeners, whether it's domestic violence, suicide prevention, mental health resources, veteran stories, active shooters, fitness, and even recovering from addictive substances. There's only one place I go to spread my message of positivity about not just going through things, but growing through them as well. For this, I use Anchor.fm. It allows my listeners to listen on over 7 platforms with a click of a button. Make sure you download Anchor app or go to Anchor.fm to get started sharing your story. Hey, what's up? Welcome, everybody, back to the Off the Deep End Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Eddie. Today, I'm super excited. A little quick update. My shoulder I'm done with PT, and we're diving back into another veteran story. This guy is special to me, I got to be honest. Not only does he do veteran outreach, but he puts his whole life out there for everyone to know about, constantly working to help veterans get homes, secure jobs, maintain their in-working status while they go through the program. And he's also one of the main contributors into the great work that 9line is doing over here. No, not the clothing company, the 9line Veteran Resources over here in the beautiful area of Pierce County. So thank you so much to Tony Dayton for joining us today. I appreciate your service. I appreciate what you do on a daily basis. I'm able to refer people to you. I have you refer information and other organizations to me on a regular basis so we can all coexist and help veterans get into houses. And I appreciate your help. Last time I hit you up, especially about filing for disability for my buddy. So welcome and thank you so much for your time, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me, dude. I'm super excited to be here. I got a little phrase that I kind of coined, and I'm never trying to live on yesterday's inspiration. I got to find that new one, and today you get to be my inspiration to see what other veterans I can help today. So I'm ready to kind of crack this thing off and see what we can find out today. Let's learn about me.
Excellent, brother. Excellent. So where did it all start for you? So I know that I think you were in a different branch than me, and that's okay, because I'm not too prideful about my own branch. So tell me a little bit about your childhood and what drove you to ultimately enlist in the military.
How's that one cadence go to war, go to jail?
Go to war, go to jail. I just heard that last night.
It's kind of similar, right? Like I wouldn't say I was on my way to jail, but I mean, I was definitely headed down a bad path as a teenager. I had some family real close to me around 16 years old. My grandma and grandpa had pretty much been there off and on my whole life raising me, and they had passed away at those teenager years. And as a vulnerable teenager, man, I took it pretty rough.
I'm so sorry to hear that, man. My brother, my condolences. I've gone through a similar thing that happened to me as my child. When I was 11, my grandpa passed. He was my father figure to me. My dad
Yeah,
was not present. I had a stepdad who did his best, but that was my guy. Every
yeah,
day kicking it, hanging out, learning new things, learning who I was, being
yeah.
instilled with knowledge. And at that vulnerable stage when you lose your guidance, it can really hit you hard, man. So I'm sorry.
Yeah. And I mean, Grandpa was, that was my baseball. I played baseball all the way up till I was 16, and he never missed a practice. You know what I mean? So that was our thing together. And that really sets the stage, I think, for where my story really kicks off. You know what I mean? So I joined the Army National Guard at 19 years old. And what was it, 29, somewhere in there, October 29th, 2004, I joined the National Guard. And when you joined in 2004, you knew you were going over to Iraq.
Oh yeah.
That's why we were doing it. In fact, just a segue, just for a second, I actually met a drill sergeant he was the first sergeant of my AIT here in Washington. And he was telling me how much harder they were going on us because they knew we were going to war.
Yeah. Do you think that is beneficial?
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I mean, you don't want to get guys over there and then trying to make that decision. They don't want to be there anymore while they're there. You'd much rather have them do it back home and be like, hey, this isn't for me.
Mm,
I would think, I would guess. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the studies are behind all that stuff. Ultimately, but yeah. So for me, I joined up, 19 years old. Uh, Went over to basic AIT, and all that stuff was going great. I was a great soldier. I excelled in PT. I think it was like a 260 PT score if I remember right. So not bad, not, but I definitely was good, right? Um, all those things were going great, and so I come home. The first thing I did when I got back from basic and AIT, so as a young man, for some reason I loved love. You know what I mean? I loved love, and I got married when I came back in between my time. So I knew in 3 months when I got back from AIT, I was going to Iraq, right? And so I got married. I did that whole rigmarole, and then I shipped off, right? And getting into Iraq, man, I tell you, there was you first getting there. It was you could hear small arms fire all the time, right? You could hear things going off. There was always something going on in 2005, 2006 time frame. It was just a hairy time, right? And so, I get through that. I roll into Abu Ghraib prison. That's where I pretty much did my first stint at. And at Abu Ghraib, it was kind of hot and cold. I think there was lots of um, uh, different times of attacks, mortar fire coming in, small arms fire coming in. I got to hear bullets whizzing past my head. I stepped through a doorway and was actually knocked on my butt by a mortar, stepping through a doorway. I felt the
mm.
blast wave go through me and stuff. And so there was things that were already starting to change my demeanor about life, and the way I felt about things. And then there was another piece, man. There was another piece that my relationship back home with the woman I had married was not going well,
Mm.
you know. I'd love to put it on her and say she's just a bad guy, but I was a young teenager doing teenager things while in a relationship, right? But I didn't see it that way. I didn't see my faults at the time. All I seen was this woman was taking advantage of me while I was in Iraq,
Mm.
and that's what I saw, and that's what I felt. There was financial issues. There was all kinds of stuff going on, right? There was this feeling, this aura of life. You know what I'm saying? This aura of life that felt like almost like medieval times. You ever
Mm.
watch a movie and you're like, oh, those lives aren't really that important because that's just the way kings and queens are or whatever.
Yes, yes,
You know,
absolutely, especially with Game
it's
of Thrones.
right. Game of Thrones. There you go. I mean, it's wild how it shakes out. And that's what I think I was starting to feel. You know, uh, there was there was just different incidents happening. You know,
Mm.
so piling on all that stuff, I started to get these thoughts like I didn't want to be here. Right? I remember I was like looking up at the sky one day, and I'm like, what am I doing here? You know what I mean? Like what's going on here? And I started getting these fleeting thoughts of like I just want to die.
Mm.
I want to freaking, and for me, it was always around the gun, right? The M16 or whatever, and so right towards the end of the stint at Abu Ghraib was when I really started going downhill. The wife and I were basically arguing every time we talked on the phone. I had all these other lingering thoughts, like around when my grandma and grandpa passed away. It was like, I had these these things I regretted that I'd done, you know, and it was all starting to build up. So my unit actually closed down Abu Ghraib, right? And then we transitioned to Baghdad, Camp Liberty, buy up, all that stuff. So it might have been first first week, first couple weeks in Baghdad, something like that. Uh, I got really upset. I actually went down and I thought, man, I just want to end it all. And I sat down at the Class 6 yard. That's where we keep all the materials and stuff. I sat down, I took my M16 and I put it under my chin, right? And I remember just rocking it back with like, 'cause I set the butt on the ground, right? So I set the butt on the ground and I rocked it back and I just put my thumb towards the trigger, right? And that gun double fed, dude. That thing jammed. It jammed in that moment. And
Thank God.
thank God, right? Like that's crazy, you know. And so then Sergeant Block comes down. He was my team leader at the time, you know, and he couldn't see what was going on with me. I just kind of kneeled my head, just kind of turned my head downward as I
Mm,
handed him my M16, and I go, it's jammed. I can't get it unjammed, right? But I got tears running down my face. He doesn't see none of that. He busts
mm.
out his Gerber. He freaking pops the bullet out, and he gets it all cleared, you know. And then he goes to hand it back to me, and he looks at me, and he goes, "Oh my God!" And he just grabs and just embraces me. You know what I mean?
Oh Lord, man, that just gave me chills. The hair on the back of my neck stand up, the little that is there because I get haircuts and stuff, right? But wow, uh, uh, being embraced at a moment of complete, the lowest of the low, can make all the
Oh,
difference.
it
All the
was,
difference.
and it helped, dude. And my guys, my squad mates, my like, dude, they really like. I mean, Sergeant Wilson, Featherston. I mean, all those guys were really like, man, you know, just trying to support me. You know what I mean? They were trying to be there for me. I went. They kind of moved me. They started sending me to the psych, right? I went to see the psych, whatever. Got on some antidepressants, you know, tried to start getting. We started talking about closure and getting the divorce and doing all that stuff, you know. Um, and and then the arguing with the wife when I did talk to her, it kind of persisted. It continued, you
Mm,
know, and then there was like a span in like this 60-day period where I just instead of what they would do is take my bolt. They take the bolt out of my M16.
yeah.
And so there was like another time where I was like, I just feel suicidal. Will you just take my bolt? Yada yada. You know, so they did that, but then I got it back again. Right. I got it back, you know, I was fine. I was like, I'm okay. And I was, dude, I was doing good. You know, everything was going fine. Baghdad wasn't really anything that crazy going on over there. You know, it was just a lot smoother as far as, you know, um, uh, as far as the war is concerned, right? It just wasn't
Mm,
quite as hostile. You know, I mean, there were spots, you know, there was things that happened that were, you know, a little bit would show that I was becoming a loose cannon. I think, you know, I definitely drew down on a car that was coming at us. That I mean, was just trying to move forward as I was telling him to stop. But when he got too close to me, I definitely drew down pretty hard on him. And and Sergeant Wilson actually had to stop the whole situation, you know. But you know, so it's kind of like when I hear those stories about soldiers kind of going crazy, I kind of relate a little bit. Like
mm.
you just get upset, you get angry, you know.
Yeah. I mean,
But
war is, it's not just discipline and orders and, hey, you're getting shot at this time or this, you remember your rules of engagement, the ROE. You have to live and die by it, or you're gonna end up in Leavenworth or something like that. And there's so many different facets that roll into it that a lot of people who have never experienced war or a war fighting scenario or even been anywhere near Iraq at all are never going to be able to understand or contemplate, or people that haven't been on the end of on the receiving end of where a bullet's going to come out of at you. A lot of
yeah,
people don't even know what that's like. So the
yeah,
emotions you feel after some people in the streets of Seattle or around the United States, people were to be robbed at gunpoint or just have a gun pointed at them, and it's a traumatic experience. What do you think happens to the people who at young ages get guns put in their hand and told, "Hey, we got to go do this. It is what it is. Let's rock." And
yeah,
you're now dealing with people who you cannot necessarily tell apart because they don't wear uniforms when they're trying to shoot at you, and you don't know who's the enemy, who the bad guy is.
yeah,
One of my favorite quotes is, "Yeah, you show me a Taliban, and I'll show you, I'll show you what a modern day pedophile looks like in society, or what the next active shooter is going to look like." You can't necessarily separate these people from who you're dealing with in a regular basis, even if it's just villages that are living there or different cities. So one can only imagine the stresses you're facing, not just back home, but also in the war environment you're at. There's going to be
yeah,
moments where you lose your cool, where shit
yeah,
gets kind of hairy, where you're uncomfortable. you're always in a state of uncomfortability. It's 120 degrees out there. But yeah. Oh yeah, you're going to be
Yeah.
uncomfortable. It's not nice. It's not friendly, but it's real.
Yeah. And before I kind of go further in my story, one of the things I want to speak out on is when we deal with people who are suicidal, we think they're seeking attention, right? And sometimes they are. Well, it happens, right? Like people feel like that person, like you'll hear, hey, I think they're just seeking attention.
Mm.
And and in a sense, they are. Like if we're being reality, they are, but it's to escape a circumstance. So the attention they want is to get out of the circumstance, right? And so that kind of builds, I always say, I have a saying that it's not someone who's suicidal is not just seeking attention. They're building up the courage to do it. Committing suicide or attempting suicide takes courage. And now let me get into this final part, right? This is kind of the gist of where the story before we really get into what the success was, right?
Mm.
What happened next was I had gotten a cell phone, one of those Arachna phones. It looked like those old Nokias, right? I got this old Nokia phone, and I hadn't talked to the wife in a while, and I called her, right, and I could text from this phone. I think I was paying like $12 a text or something. It's crazy, but so I called her, right, and we argued again, right? We argued again, and right before I hung up with her, I told her, "You just make me want to kill myself." Right? That's what I said to her.
Mm.
After we hung up the phone, she sent a text. Now I don't really blame her for sending this text just because of like what I said before, misunderstanding. She was young too, but she sent a text. She says, "I don't know why you keep saying it. You know you don't have the balls to do it."
It's not necessarily a positive thing to say.
I snapped.
Mm.
I ran to my trailer. I picked up my M16. I put it. First I went to go slide it under my chin again, and I said, "You know what? I'm gonna let God decide." And I put it to my chest and I pulled the trigger. And it said, I mean, before you even heard that pop just now, I'd already regretted what I did. Already instantly regretted what I did. I popped myself out the trailer because they look single wides, right? And you got three doors on one side, and each one is a squad of two or got a battle buddy's room, right? So you got two guys per each room.
Mm-hmm.
So and then outside of our trailer is these big Texas T barriers. So I popped myself out the door. I just like crawl myself across the Texas T barrier, push myself off, and as I'm coming down, I catch the door handle of Barack Panu and Curry's door, and I kind of just was able to like finagle my body inside and lay on right at their doorway. And the last thing I remember is Barack Panu sitting over me, telling me it's gonna be okay, buddy. You're gonna be okay. And Curry jumping over me in some whitey tighty underwear. It's a very vivid thing that I remember, you know. And then I went out. I went out and then I remember waking up kind of in the I woke up, I felt like I was going through a MASH tent, like in the movie MASH where they got the medical doctors and stuff.
Mm.
And I don't know why the loudest bus has to be driving behind me right now. So I feel like I'm hearing these pains, like I'm like people begging for their mom, stuff like that. Like I don't want to die, yada yada yada. And so as I'm rolling, and I remember I'm telling the doctors like, my arm's on fire, my arm's on fire. I felt like I was on fire underneath my arm, and then I kind of went out again. Um, so that's really the story. And then I went into a psych ward. Then I went to Washington D.C. I went from Launchville, Germany. When I first originally was waking up, I was telling them it was an accidental discharge. I was cleaning my weapon. In fact, that story actually made it back to some of my family and everything. Uh, but once I came to, it was 3 days after all the meds wore off. I told the truth. They put me into a psych ward. I'd love to say I just got better from there, but I kind of went a little crazy from there. And from there, I got released I got sent from Germany to Washington, D.C. at Walter Reed. And once I hit Walter Reed and got out of the psych ward at Walter Reed, I went to go drink my life away. That's the way I like to put it, and it spiraled me way out of control. Spiraled me far, all the way into drugs, homelessness. I was homeless for probably a good 5 years. I couldn't get connected to VA benefits because I when I got after I got home, I wasn't able to keep up with going to the National Guard, so I got an other than honorable discharge from the National Guard. So I told everybody I had an other than honorable discharge, um, which is why I get into terms a lot. But so I went through all that, and then it was 2012. And I'm way off the deep end at this point, just trying to find a way out, I think. 2012, I'm sitting in jail on an assault charge. Who'd have thought, right? And I get diagnosed with PTSD, right? And I'm like, okay, I don't even know what that means, but whatever, you know. I had the WDVA. It actually in 2007, it actually tried to help me quite a bit. So bless them, but I just wasn't ready, you know. So in 2012, I get diagnosed with PTSD, and they're talking about I'm going to this treatment center, right? And so I do. I go. In fact, there was a news article. It said on the front, remodeled $6 million remodel at the VA American Lake Domiciliary. And I think that's where I'm going. I'm sitting in jail. I'm like, I think that's where I'm going, and I'm all kind of like, cool, like, let's go. So, and I did. I got out of there, and I go to, I'd like to say I got sober right away, but again, I didn't. I fell out again, went and used again. It lasted all of about 2 weeks before I was on my way to detox. And that's where the success really begins. You know, um, detox was in there for about 10, 12 days. It was right around November 4th. Um, and, uh, and I knew, and the first thing that had happened in detox was I'd never heard of this thing called mindful meditation. Right? I'm sure you've heard of it, right? I'd never heard of it at that point.
Yes.
And they said, if you don't go to a class, you're not going to get to go to treatment. And I said, okay. I got up and I walked out into this room. It was kind of dark, they had it like lights off or whatever. And I sat down, and this lady started directing me on how to breathe. And I tell you, she had the most I don't know how to say it, most melodious voice.
Yes.
I like, it was so soothing. It was the first time my mind had quieted in years, probably since 2000. I'm assuming 2006, right? So we're 2012. This is 6 years later, the first time. And I felt quieted in my mind, and I could just and I started to. There was something that sparked. Something started right there. Went down, went to the domiciliary. The guys in the domiciliary, like, I was always a real good systems guy. I knew how to work DSHS, knew how to work all these little systems or whatever, figure out how to get through them, tell other people how to do it so they can get their food stamps or whatever. But now I had a new system, the VA system, right? The disability system. Like, I was learning all these new ones. And I kind of became like a jailhouse lawyer. I mean, I could help them with that. I could help them with this. And next thing you know, they're making me president of the Dom. I'm out freaking doing blanket drives and collecting clothing drives with the national. That's another piece of this. So the very first organization I met, the very first nonprofit, was called National Alliance to End Veteran Suicide. Very first nonprofit. So you can imagine, I'm like, wait, I know about this. I know about this ish.
Yeah.
Come on, like I can do this. And I jumped. I dove right into that's where my passions for helping veterans and working with veterans and sharing my story, I knew was important. Up between 2006 and 2012, if you were around me, you didn't even know I was in the military. You never talked about it. In 2012, 2013, probably January, you remember how I was talking about rolling through that MASH tent? So I was on the phone with my mom. I had been writing all night long because there was a gap. There was a gap. My mom, I'd remembered calling my mom from a satellite phone. It was like one of those last phone calls you get because I didn't know if I was going to make it. And in that moment, all these suppressed memories came rolling back. When I was rolling through that MASH tent, I was begging for my life, begging for my mom. I don't want to die. I don't want to be here. They literally put my mom on the phone as I'm telling her, Mom, I'm sorry, Mom. I don't want to die, Mom. I want to live, telling my mom that stuff. It was, I just imagine what I put her through on that. So to say the least, I had a lot of things going for me, a lot of things that I wanted to make right. I just the nonprofit work, the cognitive behavioral therapy, the VA doctors, like, dude, I got some of the best support behind me. I had, this the way these guys were looking to me. Like I was starting to learn things that were important to people. I could tell my story and move a room. I was a guy that couldn't be in a room with more than 8 people in it without getting hostile. Next thing you know, I'm going through a training. I went through this landmark worldwide and learning how to speak to people in rooms and and speak from a place of like, the only thing that matters is my story that's going to make a difference in the world. And that's it. Everything else beyond that is not, that's not, uh, that's just story behind it. That's just story. If I want to say I'm sad because of my story, that's just something I made up. The truth is my story will make a difference. And that's what I got to do. I can't be ashamed. I just have to go for it. And so that's what I've done for the last, 10 years now. Shared my story, I'm willing to share with doctors every moment leading up to my suicide. We could talk about every little detail, how it felt, what they had to do, packing the bullet. There's nothing surrounding it for me that I can't turn into. This is educational and opportunity to make a difference. And I do that. And I've done that through books I've read. I read a book, Just Because You're Suicidal Don't Mean You're Crazy. Learned about how the brain operates. Seen a presentation by Daryl Dipke for a neuroscientist with the Navy. It started just putting all these things together and how we could, understand suicide, how we can understand, how can we get people to tell the truth about it? You know what I mean? That's huge.
Yes,
Like
brother.
if I go in and tell you that I don't have a plan or a method of suicide, I feel like most people have a method in their mind at all times. Not that that method's like they're gonna go do it right now, but like there's a method that they prefer if they've ever been suicidal before. You know, and that's the stuff we need to talk about. That's the stuff I want to be open about. If
100%, brother.
if it's a gun, if it's a knife, if it's jumping off a freaking bridge, you know what bridge it is. You've already thought about it. You know,
Absolutely. And well, first I just want to say, wow. I don't think that I can articulate this in a proper way, but I'm just going to say personally, like listening to your experience and you sharing about the attempt on your life by yourself and the steps leading up to it and what helped, what the factors that were going on in the situation. You're really breaking down what was going through your head at the time, what you remember, what it felt like, all these things. And especially when you're talking about right after you did it, you instant regret. And not just
instant.
because of the fact that you were bleeding, not just the fact that you were in pain, not just the fact that you were crawling and throwing yourself in somebody else's mercy to try to help you. You're thankfully your brothers were there to step up and step in when it needed
Yeah,
to happen. But more than that, man, thank you for having it is true courage to tell the truth about what you've experienced in life and be all out and open and stuff like that. It really does take true courage. So that is very courageous of you to speak about. Suicide is a topic that's not being discussed yet. You can have 4 sailors do it on a Navy ship in a weekend, and people will ask what's going on, and then you can have an epidemic throughout the United States Navy, and the Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy will show up to a warship, and when asked about it, tells them to lower their standards. I don't think lowering your standards is necessarily what we need to do. I think we need to tackle this from a different perspective. We should try to find the root. I should be able to comfortably say it just I'm going to be a little bit transparent here as well. I've had suicidal ideations before. Absolutely. And it can all stem from my childhood. It can stem from my teenage years. It can stem from my time in the military and the traumatic experience I've had that I haven't shared with people. It could stem from a lot of things. But when you're feeling that you're at the lowest of the low, you do sometimes want. I wouldn't call it attention pretty personally from what I felt like I needed, but I needed something to help pull me up from out of the mud. I needed a hand up. I needed somewhere to call, because calling the suicide hotline seemed like the most wrong thing to do at the time. And when you're feeling when I was personally feeling that I was I didn't have anywhere to go. I didn't know what to do. I lost my sense of purpose, which is something that I strive to redefine and find every day now. But I felt like I lost my sense of purpose. I definitely did want to die, and I wasn't going to shoot myself. I didn't want to be around my family when I didn't want them to see me. I didn't want them to have to walk in the room and find me. But I didn't want to be here anymore, and I wished that I had, the ability to have stories like yours that moved me and helped me understand, hey, you're not the only one who feels like this. Don't be ashamed. Call the hotline. Call 988. Don't sit on this. Don't let the problem build. Don't let the pressure build up. Talk to somebody. Please seek help. And doesn't mean you're weak. It means you have strength, and you are courageous. You do not need to lower your standards. You need to find somebody who does have standards for the community of veterans. And I think you're doing you do a great job of presenting that same ideology, that this is something we need to address. This is something we need to talk about. Sharing stories and being completely 100% transparent about the fact that I tried to commit suicide is an important thing. So thank you for that, man. It needs to be said.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think back to my boy AJ, rest his soul, combat medic, um, took his own, yeah, you can call it took his own life. I don't know how you want to word it. Sometimes it's just actions that lead up to it, right? So him and I could discuss our suicidal ideation like it was nothing. Like it was absolutely nothing. And we can build that with us, even at merging vets and players. We can build it to where, hey, I can be like, Eddie, you all right, man? Do I need to come swoop your gun up? No, I'll be good. I mean, I'm definitely not good, but I'll be good. I'm definitely not going to go put the bullet in the chamber tonight.
Yeah.
But if I need you to swoop up my guns, I might tell you to. And then that way, when I show up to swoop up your gun, I'm just put it in a holster and be like, all right, man, I'll just hold on. I'll take it for the night. And then tomorrow, just call me back. I'll bring it back over. Whatever, because that's how real, that's how much of an edge you have to be on. And if you're comfortable enough to talk to someone that deep about it, most of those nights you're going to save their life. And it's not even, and it doesn't have to be some big, oh shit, we got to go to the hospital, we got to do it really doesn't. Like there just has to be a little intervention to stop. One of the times my daughter stopped me. One of the times I didn't want her to find me. I didn't want her to find me. That stopped me. Like it has to be something so simple sometimes. It doesn't have to be something crazy, some big thing where everybody knows. It's just like if you just get those brothers and sisters that are close to you and maybe that you've already got that deep connection with, you can build a team for yourself to where you guys know what's going on. Like, hey, oh shit, he's arguing with his wife tonight. I better just I better just be ready at 2 a.m. to go swoop him up. You know what I mean? Especially especially since I already know he's drinking.
Oh yeah.
We could get close enough to know each other that we know that that's going on.
And I think it's essential that we do as veterans. A word that I hear a lot is camaraderie, and that's something that when people refine it, they vocalize. I have my family, my squad, my platoon, whatever, my division back. Right, my division was over 100 people. I feel that I have that connection with every single veteran that I've aligned myself here in the Pacific Northwest. I can call Josh Wielden and be like, hey man, I'm fucked up. I don't know what to do. Really having some bad thoughts. I'm popping smoke. I need to be bailed out. I'm not in a good spot. And he will make 3 phone calls, and I can have another person that I trust pop up at my house before he gets here to come in and intervene just in case. Like, hey man, let's just talk in my car real quick. I sit and talk in the car. Another person is going to show up to ask my wife if she's okay, because I might have said some fucked up shit, because that's how close we all are. We're able to break down these layers that we put up, these walls. I don't want you to know my whole deepest darkest secret. Everybody you were in the military did know your deepest darkest secrets. They know you're from the podunk town. They know you lost your dad last week, and we're out at sea, and you're going to be in a messed up spot for a while because you can't deal with your emotions because you're compartmentalizing because mission first, because that's what you're supposed to do, and it's not healthy. And we're gonna keep an eye on Eddie this week. That happened to me. I had those people. I never ever felt like it, like I was gonna like I was going to lose my sense of purpose. But that's something that we often do when we leave the military. Transitioning out can be exceptionally difficult. When we leave, all these things start to bubble up. We've been holding them underwater for the longest, but after a while, that pocket of air gets a little bit stronger than our weak ass arms, and we're overpowered. You can't beat it, but we can work to prevent it. And
Yeah.
It makes me, what you talked about made me think about an experience. We were deployed close to Iraq. We already, everybody on our crew already knew everything about each other. We were very supportive of each other. I walked on the back of the ship. I saw someone I didn't know holding onto the rail, and his arms were shaking, and he was convulsing while he was crying. And I was like, okay. And I don't know if you know about the back of an aircraft carrier, but if you dropped a plastic water bottle into the water, it would be sucked under for probably about like 10, 20 minutes. So you'd imagine a human being is not going to do too well either, because no matter how buoyant you are. So it was me and a couple of the other E4 and above that were coming out from a meeting, and we saw this, and we kind of creeped up slowly. Like, hey man, what's up, buddy? Everything all right? We came from different angles. We slowly moved in, just talking to him, and he went to try to step up and jump over, and we kind of just embraced him, and we held him, and the crying got worse, and he was trying to fight us to get over the side of the ship. We pulled him in, and my buddy was on the radio, and we kind of held him and wouldn't let him go, and I just grabbed his wrist because he was trying to fight us off, but not like forcefully, but in a way that you're not getting out of this. And we were able to just talk to him, trying to figure out what was wrong. Next thing you know, 15 other people come running up from the chief's mess, covered in the food they were just eating, because they sprinted off just because they heard one sailor, not one person that worked for them, not one of their friends, just one sailor was in a bad spot on the back of the ship, and he needed help. That is the type of same thing I try to emulate outside the military. We all show up when one person's not doing too hot, or when you are dealing with suicidal ideations. You're never, you know for a fact that people will show up. You're never alone, and if you go through with this, we're going to be there to help your family try to pick up the pieces, and we don't want to. We want you to be here. You are important to us because you're a member of our team when we check on other people.
And let me break that down a little bit. So let me take first, picture this. You ever thrown a first punch at a bar, whatever?
Oh yeah. I thought first punches. Yes.
A bunch of them, huh?
Big mistakes.
That
a lot of
impulse,
times.
not when you're on defense and throwing that second punch, but that first punch takes an impulse. Mm-hmm. There is no difference between pulling the trigger, throwing your body over the edge, than throwing that first punch. That's what it takes, is that impulse. That's it. It's so separate from what you're dealing with and thinking about that it gives you that opportunity to deter. Right? Just like your buddy, I'm assuming he probably didn't start to try to actually jump until someone was close to him, because none of us really want to die.
No one should want to die.
Yeah. A majority of us don't want to die. We want to escape whatever it is that feels inescapable. And so that is that moment. That's that impulse. Like, some of us can get the courage to do the impulse. Some of us, have a little bit more barrier before we can hit that impulse, but it's an impulse, and it's so separate, so distinct from the actual feelings of hopelessness and everything else that you have, that the impulse is separate. Right.
Absolutely, brother.
And so being able to identify that, like, I've sat on my couch and be like, Tony, guess what? As long as you don't do the impulse, you're not going to die. Like, literally broke it down for myself. Like, that's the way I think, right? I broke it down for myself. Like, as long as I don't do the impulse, I'll be right. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty down and out right now, but I'm pretty freaking third party, that bird's eye view of my own body feeling right now. But as long as I don't do the impulse, I'm going to die today.
Absolutely.
So, I think it's good, man. It's I love kind of coming on, and finishing my story up. To wrap it up, basically, I went through. I found my passions. I've served on multiple boards, been the commanders of VFW, I'm second vice right now, housing director for 9-Line. Help really mold that into something that is fantastic and doing amazing things for veterans. We house 26 veterans. We employ 15, I think it is right now, and we're growing. Right, we got the Veterans Resource Fair coming up April 15th. My day job, I do I'm a mortgage broker, and I'm super successful in that. So I've really turned to. I mean, who'd have thought I'd ever become a freaking banker from where I came from?
Yeah, I love the work that Nine9Line does. I've used them personally for someone I ran into on the street, which is great. You never know who you come across in. So what else have you been doing with them?
So yeah, I mean, basically right now, my goal, my whole thing is I went from homelessness to homeownership. So I'm trying to build that in a 2-year program. That's my goal. And having my experience, I know that it's possible for almost all veterans who are, you know, pretty much all veterans could do it in 2 years, right? And so that is kind of where we're going with that. We're housing guys. We just got received a grant, the Staff Sergeant Fox grant, where we're working on the Staff Sergeant Fox suicide prevention grant. I better finish that whole statement so people understand. um we just received that grant. We got case managers. We're hiring case managers. We're hiring a housing director. We've already hired an outreach guy. We're still hiring another one. um and we're just trying to just full wraparound services, right? And my piece will be to continue to help this thing grow, cultivate and grow what was already basically my story, walk in my shoes. I love to go through things and do them and then show other people how to do them,
Awesome,
and
man.
so that's it. Like, I mean, do you imagine someone comes into a program and walks out a homeowner in 2 years? That's success. That's tangible
So
success,
many people cannot even imagine, like literally imagine being a homeowner in their life.
right?
Literally in life. Like now that I have a mortgage, I'm like, why don't I have a mortgage? But I always tell people, how beautiful would it be if you could envision yourself more than you are right now? Just think about it for a second. That's you.
Yeah.
All the first thoughts that come to your head are the dreams that, and they don't have to be ending. You don't have to give up on your dreams, your aspirations, and to have
Yeah.
a program that puts you into a home in 2 years as a veteran. Coming out of your military service, a lot of times they're lost. Veterans should not be ending up on the street. We can do better. We can all
Yeah.
have a part in this. Just spreading the word, talking about programs like 9line, programs like Wounded Warrior Project, programs like Permission to Start Dreaming Foundation. There's so many that we can do, and we can all do a great part. And I love what I just talking to you and hearing the things that you've experienced and the things that you're doing with your life experiences. You're not just going through your issues that you've gone through. You're growing through them, and you're helping others do the exact same thing. It's a real, tangible, obtainable, real, like real freaking thing. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It is exactly what any person's goal in life could be. Checking that box. How many people have you really helped in your life? The effect on others is the most valuable currency ever, and you are rich in life, my friend. You are rich.
Yes, I know. I mean, I'm gonna throw a little advertisement out there. Nine9Line definitely needs to find that the people who are controlling the government contracts, the people who are controlling the civilian contracts,
Mm,
ones that would really pay those veterans. Like, I have a vision that they're making way above median income inside that warehouse, right? And in
hell
order
yeah.
to do that, I need to become a piece of Amazon. I need to become a piece of one of those window places that you see, right? A piece of Boeing, right? There's a piece that we can do that we're paying guys like they work at freaking Boeing. You know what I mean? Like, that's the vision. That's
Mm.
the success. There's no other place where you can do that at.
Well,
And we can
in
build.
our area right here, we have access to Boeing, to Microsoft, to Amazon, to all these
Yeah,
different places. And you know, I think that with the continuation of the projects you're doing, word's going to spread about this. Word is
yeah.
going to spread.
Did
And
I
it's
want
things like,
Microsoft? Oh my gosh, they could have us doing stuff. It's just that conversation needs to be had because I already know they want to.
mm,
The conversation just needs to be had. We got to find the person to have the conversation with. Be like, hey, let's have these veterans put together these little green board chips, right? They're putting them together, and we're paying them $70,000 a year to do it with benefits, everything. Like, they want to do it. It's just getting to the point. And then there's logistics, warehouse space. Veterans. right? All of it,
Mm-hmm.
making sure they're capable of doing that stuff, I mean, training, but it's right, dude. I'm on the edge of it, and I've been on the edge of it for 2 years. And every time I say I'm on the edge of it, but we literally are growing as I say I'm on the edge of it. Like we are doing that, but what's next? What's the next best one is what's out there, so I'm excited.
Awesome, man. I absolutely love it. What are some of your favorite success stories? You don't have to obviously say names. Let's all be respectful of people who've gone through the program because not all parts of it are beautiful. But how many? Can you tell me a couple of success stories that you've had working with 9line? Ones that really stood out to you, just off the top of your head.
Oh man. Um, being in it for we're at about 2 years now, but there's definitely been I had one of my buddies who called me. He needed something for transition just a little while.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't something crazy. And it was just the perfect opportunity for to just chill for a minute, have a low rent, go through it and come out. That was one. I had another one who basically came from like basically just the whole system had just messed him up, right? And so I can't get into too much detail. The whole system was messed him up, we were able to just get him in there and start working on his stuff and just like within 48 hours had congressional stuff going on. You know what I mean? I can't get into details on it, but I mean it was like as soon as he got to us, we are like, oh, this guy's been wronged. Let's go.
Yeah.
And we're taking care of him right now. Like he's getting taken care of right now. We bring guys from uh, um, different treatment centers, out of town, out of state.
Mm-hmm.
So guys are coming down here and finding a way to be away from where all their craziness was going on at, and down in here, down living in our housing and able to just kind of be calm and not have to worry about running into their drug dealer at the store. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
there's a couple of those guys.
And we're not talking
Um,
about people just randomly that are out in the world that are are going through the ups and downs of addiction and the misuse of alcohol, um, the waves of alcoholism or drug use. We're talking about veterans, people who have literally gone overseas and they are using drugs as a coping mechanism because they can't find a new normalcy to conform to, right?
yeah,
So you're literally, I like to use this term, breathing life into somebody. So when CPR is a great thing, right? I'm glad it exists, but there's other ways to use breathing life into somebody, and it can be financially, spiritually, emotionally, physically, with teaching somebody how to work out, or with their diet, teaching somebody how to eat better. There's so many different ways to help others, but you're literally with this program breathing life into veterans when they feel like their life is coming to an end, or they'd rather be in an altered state of mind to cope with what life has given them.
yeah, yeah. I mean, absolutely. And I mean, I'd love to get into more. Hopefully, soon we'll have. I know there's testimonials on the
Mm-hmm.
website at
Yes.
9line.org. So you can definitely go on there and see some of the testimonials that are there.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to get too deep into them just because I haven't asked for anybody's permission. So I wasn't really
100%.
expecting, didn't even think about that before we got on here. So,
Hey, you know
um,
what? You didn't mention any names, and I appreciate that for a multitude of reasons. Especially, um, I have a journey, a personal journey, just from my perspective. I have a personal journey. I like to share my life experiences when I'm ready. I'm not always ready to say, hey, the last words I said to my father before he died when I was on deployment were really bad, and I have a lot of guilt, and I've been working through it, and I'm mad at myself, and I'm mad at him for what he did, and there's so much unsolved stuff there. It took me time to be able to say that, right? So you can only imagine what. Hey, I have no home.
mhm.
I don't know who I am anymore. I'm doing this drug to feel okay for a little bit, but I know I'm going to come back to it because I need more to feel okay, and then I'm gonna have regret afterwards. Nobody wants to share these details. And when they're
Mhm.
ready to share, they'll share. And that's what the beauty of respecting others is, man. So you
Yeah.
didn't overshare at all.
I'm good. I'm like, oh man, am I gonna get in trouble for that one? Right? Like I said. No, but yeah, they are. There's guys in there that are definitely moving their lives forward. There are guys in there right now moving their lives forward. So, and as we keep evolving, it just gets better and better. So I think that's a huge piece of it. Um, we've got like I said, I think I said earlier, April 15th, we've got the Veterans Resource Fair at the Tacoma Dome.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have tons of veterans that we're seeing there. And then later in the year, probably October, November timeframe, we'll be doing our fundraiser gala. So definitely check out the website, watch for that fundraiser gala, come out, and it's a pretty awesome event.
Mm-hmm.
I do expect there's a great dinner that's served. There's live music. Probably some celebrities will be there. So and it's just a fun time. So
Excellent. Well, no disrespect to them, but I'm gonna be honest. You're my celebrity. I look to, I no, I might that might sound like a joke, but I'm being completely so serious, man, for a multitude of reasons. Just a few of which, you're somebody who's tried to take their own life. You're comfortable talking about it, even though it's uncomfortable that it happened, right? And you're telling people that they can have life after an attempt on their own.
yeah,
That
absolutely.
that is true beauty, right?
Like more than I could ever imagine.
And all my heroes, they've came home a little bit messed up or underneath a flag. Those are my fucking heroes. And it's, I was gonna make this a clean episode, but it is what it is. Too late. Those are my heroes. It's PG-13. I'm gonna still put it up as clean. But those are my heroes. Those are my heroes. The
Yeah,
people that come home and they're not okay, and they work to get better, and they and
yeah,
they help other people. You are a hero to me. Elliot Gaskins is a hero to me.
yeah,
I can go down a list. Tim Kennedy's book Scars and Stripes has been something that helped me face some of the issues that I've had. Um, I can't say his name, but there's a certain guy, his operator in DevGru, and he's my hero. Him talking to me on the bridge of an aircraft carrier, when he had to reapply to get back into DevGru after some mix up. That is my hero. When he was the last man swimming in the ocean, and hopefully one day he listens to this. Danny Dietz is my hero.
yeah,
All the members of Operation Red Wings, they're my heroes. Though
yeah,
but you're doing something very special, right? You are my celebrity, brother. You are, because
yeah.
you're helping people, and you've helped me personally with my things that I've experienced. You helped me with your story, and you've helped a veteran that I met off the street. He's going to be reaching out to you probably in the next 24 hours about coming to work at the warehouse because he gets his apartment on Tuesday. And then hopefully I'm gonna it's one of those weird situations where it's just not just him. He's also trying to take care of his lady and find work for her as well. So, but
Yeah,
he's gonna be reaching out to you about coming to work at the warehouse and going from there.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention some of mine. Ron O'Farrell's been one of my heroes. Mike Villano, Rod Whitmire, Sean Durnan, and hey, one of my latest ones has been Jason Jarman. Dude, he got me a new fire.
Yeah.
Because you get burnt out sometimes. You get a little burnout from all this negative energy.
Mm,
You got to kind of cool off. But Jason really got me fired up again. And I needed that.
mm.
So I love it. Yeah, absolutely. So
Hell yeah,
um,
brother.
lots of heroes out there. There's so many more to mention, but guys that were part of my journey that did things that were pivotal in my life. AJ, all these guys. So, and I'm just grateful. I'm grateful that, we're getting to build this new relationship at MVP, through MVP because of emerging vets and players. I got to, of course, throw them out there, a little color out there. But I'm excited. I'm excited for what's next. I'm super bummed I'm missing the thing next week because I've got the 9-line retreat the same weekend.
Oh,
So,
just send me pictures and I'll send you pictures. We'll trade off.
right, gonna send pictures. So I was all excited to go, and then they changed the date, and I was like, oh man,
Absolutely. Well, you know what? I don't think there's gonna be the only one, man. I'd love
no,
to and I'd love to meet up with you at just on a whim. Middle of the week. Hey, bro, you want to hang out this weekend? Let's do it, man. For not just to shoot guns and hang out, but for anything, man. I just want to say, last year was a very interesting year for me. It was a lot of ups and downs, and there were some massive downs. I lost 24 friends last year to suicide, and there me recognizing that is not fun. Um, one of which I've cleaned up his apartment with his sister and with his and I went through all the emotions, the funeral, the whole thing. Drove him around to set up where he was going to get have his remembrance at and all the things. There's not ever a better time than absolutely right now to talk about what we can do better as a society, as friends, as people that have hearts for our neighbors, right? I don't care what their political views are. I don't care what they identify as. I don't care if they like guns or not, because I like guns and that's good enough for me. Whatever's going on with them is not necessarily something that is wrong. But if there's something wrong with them, I want to be there for them. What would you say to somebody if they came to you and said, "Hey, I'm really not doing too good, man. I don't know. I'm having some bad thoughts. I don't know what to do. Do you have any recommendations of how I deal with this?" What would you tell them?
Well, I mean, at first I'm going to identify the situation,
Mm,
right? You got to know what's going on. Like, let's talk about it. I mean, it's simple as that, right? Like, let's talk about it. Let's figure it out. You're going to, and then we're going to look at, like, how deep is this? How much pain are you in right now? You know what I mean? Like you coming to me because it's like, you're like, I'm ready to climb the tower. You know what I mean? Like what's going on here? Do we need to, do we need divine intervention? Do we, like, what do we need to do? Like, the first step for anyone that's suicidal is, hey, man, can we at least put the knives somewhere where you don't know where they're at? You know what I mean? If there's a rope involved, can we fucking throw the rope in the back of my truck? Let's just put it far enough away. I'm not saying you don't, let's just put it far enough away from you. Let's just put it away so that way it's a little harder to get to, because I know in my mind, I know from my experience, death isn't what you want. And let's see if we can resolve it. Is it finances, a relationship, and freaking work going crazy? Is that what's got you this way? Because I'll tell you right now, 9 times out of 10, it's a relationship. And I'm still yet to get the VA to approve some kind of dating app. So I haven't quite figured that one out, because I know that's like the number one, right? Relationships are tough.
mm.
Relationships are hard, especially a lot of us that wear our heart on our sleeve. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You
Hell
know,
yeah, man.
it's like the leading cause, and it sucks because, like, once you've been through it, on the other end of it, you're like, well, with this relationship being over, there is green grass over there,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't see it. You can't see it. You're hijacked, you know. But if it's financial, there's ways through that. There's ways through finances. There's ways through, loss is another one. Loss, family loss.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. How do I get you to get the perspective of how to live, how they would want you to live? That one's tough to grasp too. If you lost your mom, right? She sure as hell doesn't want you to go out there and feel sorry for yourself because she passed away.
Mm.
That's not what she wants for you. She wants success. She wants life. She wants everything it is that you wanted when you told her you wanted to be an astronaut as a kid. She wants you to go buy a telescope. You know what I mean? Like, even if you fall short of what it is, just go. At least you can, just find a way to feel like you honored them. When it comes to loss, and I know it's it's pivotal. Or it's me saying it, and it's probably not. If someone's feeling that way, it's probably not gonna hit home.
Mm-hmm.
But if it does, I hope it does. You know what I mean? Because that's what I had to get to with my loss. What did my grandma and grandpa want for me? They want a family, they want success, they want, they were huge volunteers. Probably where I got it from. They were huge volunteers when I was growing up. So I
That's
mean, I'm
awesome.
volunteer to the max. Let's go, baby. Let's honor grandma and grandpa.
100%,
So,
brother.
whatever it takes to get your
Mm.
mind right.
Absolutely. One of my favorite songs, it actually played at, on the buddy whose apartment I cleaned out this year. They played a song by U2. It's called Beautiful Day. And, it might sound like a cheesy song, but if you, like, I've been at an extremely low point, obviously. Like, we just say goodbye to somebody who worked with me every day, who was a important part of my life. I've shared things with him. I've worked a bunch of overtime with him, like 70-hour weeks. When you work at 70-hour weeks with somebody, you learn a lot about them and you share
Yeah.
life stories. You don't just want to sit there and not know who you're working with. Can I trust you, motherfucker? Right? And it's beautiful. It's so beautiful
Yeah.
They wanted to end the service on a high note, and they played the song "Beautiful Day" by U2. And ever since then, you know, every morning I play it on the way to work. I don't care how crappy I feel about having to go to a job where I'm dealing with a bunch of stuff I don't want to necessarily deal with. I don't care how bad anything is. I'm appreciative of life. When the sun rises, I'm going to look at it and be like, damn, life is good, because
Yeah.
I want to live every second like I'm actively losing parts of my life, because I am. And what type of person would I be if if I didn't honor the lives of the people who didn't want to be here anymore, by saying, you know what, I'm gonna keep throwing stuff out the wall until it sticks. I'm gonna show up today. I'm gonna appreciate the beautiful things. You know, I want to one day see the Eiffel Tower, the Great Wall of China. Maybe not in while I'm in China, but like from the outside, like with a binocular or something. I don't know. I'll figure something out. But loving life is so beautiful. There's birds chirp during the summertime at 6 a.m. I'm already at work usually, but I can still hear them. There's beautiful musical ensembles that classical music. I never thought I'd like it, but I hear it passing by in the streets. Somebody playing a violin with his buddy who plays the cello, who's homeless, and they're making beautiful music. Wow, how great is that? Children's laughter. So many great things I would miss out on if I made the decision to end my own life. And I'm so thankful that I'm still here. And more importantly, I'm thankful that you're here to share your story.
Yeah. I'm glad to. Thanks, man. I'm glad we're both here. Let's go. We
Yeah,
got work to do. We got a mission, so you can't die when you got a mission.
100%, brother.
Mhm.
100%.
I ain't
Absolutely,
trying to.
man.
I ain't trying to leave no. I ain't trying to leave no one behind here.
I love that. I love that. And that's something that I'm gonna take into my next week. It's gonna be a powerful week next week. One thing I want to say before we kind of wrap things up is I appreciate your time. I appreciate your courage telling your story. I appreciate the work that you're doing with 9line. I appreciate the work you're doing outside of your work with 9line, just how you interact on a daily basis with other people. You are a genuine, great human being. And that is exactly the type of stuff I want to put out to the world. Um, More importantly than how great you are, the effect of it on other people is great as well. And seeing the look in somebody's eyes when you've had an effect on them is a powerful thing. I was blessed with the opportunity just the other night, headed home from one of my family's funerals, and it reminds you of how your journey and how you affect other people is the best currency in life. Every time you give a part of your energy to somebody else, you receive it back tenfold. And I wanted to commend you on the stuff you do that we don't see, that we don't talk about. You're an awesome human being, and I love you so much, brother. Thank you so much for that.
Thanks, man. Glad I could come. Hey, can't live on yesterday's inspiration. Let's go. Let's go. What are we doing tomorrow?
What are we doing tomorrow? I love it. Well, on that note, thank you everybody for tapping into another episode of Off the Deep End Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Eddie. We are wrapping up the next couple months of veteran organizations. Something that I really wanted to capitalize this year is veteran resources. Not only are we going to have more resources, but also more members of specifically 9line, because I love their work, but also other ones, because when you get out of the military, you do not want to not know what your heading is. Especially if you're in the Navy. If you don't have a heading, you're probably going to crash into another ship. It's not fun. Or a little dinghy out there with a 50 cal mounted on the front of it if you're off the coast of Iran, personally. So I wanted to say, please share this with another veteran. Help them find resources in their area. 9line works across the nation. Permission to Start Dreaming Foundation works across the nation. And Tony works across the nation. Please feel free to reach out to me if you need his information. I'll make sure it's an appropriate thing for him to work on, because he is a busy man. But please do reach out if you like what 9line is doing. I would love if you just click the link in the description below this and go to their website to check it out. Thank you all so much for tapping in. This has been another episode. Much love, y'all. Take it easy.